Hi YouTube, today we're going to talk about my experience being in London, how I'm liking it. It's been about 9 months since I moved away from New York City, so obviously I have a lot of life lived in London, a lot of experiences, reflections, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it. The kind of themes of this video are going to be like confidence, kind of self-worth, talking a lot about grief, talking about the growing pains of moving somewhere new, and I think it'll resonate with you guys regardless or not if you have moved to a new country and you moved abroad. If you've been in the same city your whole life, regardless if you've grieved or not. I had a really beautiful reflection when I was visiting New York a few weeks ago. I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm gonna back up a little bit and talk about this move to London. So I moved here in October. It is now June, which is crazy. It's crazy that it's been 9 months. It feels like I moved here yesterday, but it also feels like the city is still fresh and there's so much to learn about it. 3 weeks ago, Henry and I went back to New York City for a week. We wanted to visit friends, go back to the city. Summer is a great time to be in New York. Leading up to the trip, I was really anxious. I was of course really excited to see my friends, to go to new places, to host a run in New York. It was such a fun trip. But I started to get really anxious about going back to New York. I couldn't really pinpoint why I was anxious going back to New York. New York is extremely familiar to me. It feels like home. You could drop me anywhere and I'd probably know where I am in the city. So I don't know why this anxiety was coming up. I'm not someone that gets anxious from like big crowds or a busy city. Like I love that and I really thrive in it. I was drawn to New York for the diversity, the fact that there's just so many people chasing their dreams. It's so inspiring. There's so many different cultures. Like I love New York. I don't think any city in the world compares to New York. I think I was very lucky to move there when I was young. It's kind of a curse because every other city I go to I think is never going to compare to New York, but that's just my bias about it. As I was talking to Henry about it, I started to pinpoint my anxiety. And the reason that I was anxious is because I was worried that I was going to like New York and not want to come back to London. If you followed me throughout this time, I have talked about some of my struggles with London, and a lot of them were coming in the first few months. I think I set a very unrealistic expectation on myself that you're gonna have everything figured out super soon, it's gonna be seamless, it's gonna be just like New York, it's gonna be great. You're gonna be so well equipped for it. And anticipate that it was gonna take some fucking time. My first few months in London, I did have a pretty rough go. Didn't have any friends, away from my family. The sun was setting at 3 p.m. The sun doesn't come out in the fucking winter. Seasonal depression for the first time in my life. Professionally, my world is falling apart. No US brands want to work with me in London. I have no network in London. So I'm really grasping at straws of like, can I make a single dollar here? Like, what's gonna happen for me? Since I was a freelancer, it was hard for me to get a bank account. It was hard for me to get a phone number. It was hard for me to get approved in our apartment because they needed all these tax returns. And they were like, well, we need UK tax returns. And I'm like, I just fucking moved here. What do you mean? All these really challenging things just piled up on me the first few months when I moved here. And I'm sure anyone who moves to a new country has these sort of struggles, but for some reason, I was just really resenting London. And I really associated all those struggles that are probably just baked into moving to a new place with London. Able to untangle those two things of not liking London and just having a hard time moving in the past few months because the spring has been beautiful, summer's been great, there's a lot of aspects I do really like here. When Henry and I decided that we were gonna go plan this trip and go back to New York, I was worried that I wasn't gonna wanna come back to London. I was gonna have a great time and not want to leave and then feel like I was trapped back in London in this place that I did not like, I was not thriving, I was not doing well, just in many aspects. I went back to New York and I had this very beautiful revelation that I want to talk to you all about. Henry and I landed. The first night I was getting dinner with a friend and he was going to get dinner with his guy friends. I was walking by myself through the old neighborhood that I lived in. First thing I felt was just so relaxed. And I think part of that is just the city is so familiar to me, like I mentioned earlier. Why I was so comfortable. And I just like, I didn't have a stick up my ass, my shoulders weren't tensed, like I didn't feel like I had to perform and be this type of person. I was just like walking through the street just like everyone else does. Backtrack with me, you guys. September of 2023, my dad passes away very suddenly. Run the New York City Marathon, I'm grieving, life sucks, New York City is not fun. All of my very like visceral memories of grieving and going through that process were in this shitty studio apartment I had in New York. And it was really hard for me to untangle the negative experiences of grief with the physical location that I was and the place. Like, I just hated being in my apartment. I was like, I need to go in a park, I need to go sit in a coffee shop, like I can't be here. Because every time I'm here, I have flashbacks and I think about the bad stuff and I think about the fact that my mom is alone and I think about all that, right? So I was just really resenting New York in some ways. I wasn't able to really enjoy my life But at the same time, I was like, Kate, you're fucking grieving. Like, obviously you're not able to enjoy your life because your life is not so good right now. You just had a very traumatic thing happen to you. Fast forward a few months after my dad passes, I meet Henry, quickly become infatuated, our lives get intertwined very quickly. The nature of being in New York, I think you can make yourself so busy. Run clubs, parties, events, birthdays, dinners, new this to try, new pop-up bagel, new everything. And so in the year of 2024, which was like my big grief year after my dad passed, I was just out and about doing everything. But in the first few months, I was like a shell of a human. I'd go to these influencer events and I felt like everyone was staring at me of like, oh my God, her dad just died. Like, what do we say? No one was doing that, but that's just what I internalized. I'm walking down the street, someone's gonna see me, post on a Reddit page and be like, oh my God, Kate was such a bitch or this or that. I was a mental case for 2024. We're leaving a lot of negative comments about grief, and that was really starting to affect me, and social media just wasn't becoming fun for me. I know in my heart that this is a very privileged job and I love it, but when I was grieving, the last thing I wanted to do was really show up, have a happy face, and just post nonsensical videos about, here's my favorite running shoes, and here's my makeup routine. Like, my dad just fucking died. We're all gonna die one day. I was going to all these really existential thoughts, and I couldn't fathom making a vlog or making the usual content I did because it just didn't feel fucking important. And I had all of these very big revelations of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I fucking doing on this platform? What's going on? Like July and June of that year, Henry approached me and was like, hey, I might take this job in London. He was already dreading us doing long distance and how we were gonna make that work. I was like, great, I'll come with. And he was not expecting that. So we applied for our visas, did all of that. Obviously we are in London now, but I remember thinking when he approached me, oh my God, like a fresh start, like a new chapter, like a little bit of privacy, a little bit of silence, like be by myself and like start over in some ways. And I don't think it's good to like run away from your problems, but I do think for me, it was the right choice at the time. I also think for our relationship, a lot of things, it was the right choice for me to go to London. So as I mentioned earlier to you guys, fast forward to London. London is really hard. It's really dark. I feel like just every day I'm just getting no's and just getting beat down by so many things not going well for me. And it's obviously fucking with my confidence where I'm like, okay, I suck at social media. I'm ugly. I'm annoying. Everyone hates me. I'm stupid. I have no friends. Like, every single negative thought in the book is coming up. Since I was at such a low mental health wise, I really had to think, wake up. Like, what do you want to be doing? I posted this on social media a few days ago, but like Hoka told me they weren't re-signing my contract, and that was like the last brand that had said they were gonna work with me. So that was kind of the final nail in the coffin of like, well, fuck this. None of these brands want to fucking work with me, so what do I actually want to be doing? Because I was considering getting other jobs, like part-time jobs, full-time jobs, remote jobs that are based in the US, going to grad school. I've been considering everything. If you have noticed this on my platform, since the 2024 election, I have started sharing about politics a lot more. That I've always shared about politics. If you go on my Instagram, if you go on my TikTok, if you go anywhere in my social media, there are receipts that I have always been sharing about this. Instagram highlights with like hundreds of things, right? But when I got on TikTok, for some reason, I didn't feel compelled to share political stuff. I just thought that the platform was like these 15-second like trendy videos. When the platform launched, like you couldn't make a video over a minute. And now you can make videos up to 10 minutes, I believe. I just didn't really know how to use my voice and talk about politics when I first got on TikTok, my largest platform. So I think the politics thing just like fizzled away in some ways. I never felt like I'm gonna make this a political page. It was just kind of like me posting my random videos. So when I was really at this low with all these brands saying like, we don't wanna work with you, what would I be doing right now if I wasn't a social media influencer? The answer always goes back to politics. And I think there's been this little nagging voice inside of me for years being like, you should do the politics thing. You should work on a campaign. You should do this. But for some reason I was like, well, I'm an influencer. So like, I'm gonna do the running thing. I'm gonna do the marathon thing, which is great. I'm so happy I've had those chapters. But I think when things were hitting the fucking fan, I realized that Kate, you've really lost your fucking voice. After the 2024 election, I decided to get back on my Substack. And if you don't know, I had a newsletter all throughout college, and it was my way of making politics accessible to all of my friends that were primarily art students. A lot of my friends were like, Kate, you're the nerd, can you explain the Senate filibuster or New York City abortion laws? Like, we don't understand it. So I really loved making that information digestible. I think it's one of my best skill sets to this day. After the 2024 election, I remember I opened up my Substack again, sent out a post called Dear Democrats, and I started to do a lot more political, talking to the camera video about politics. You guys follow me, so you've probably seen this content, but it wasn't something that I was really doing. I didn't feel confident, like I was smart enough, like people would receive the content well, like I needed to do it. I think during the Biden administration, I was like, no one's gonna listen to this information, and mine changed very quickly of like, I need to be using my platform so much more than I'm doing. I really need to get back to doing that because that's who I am. And I don't know why I was shying away from being her. I really boxed in on social media of, I guess I had to be a certain way. Back to when I was in New York. I was walking around, I was not feeling anxious. I was feeling like I was standing up tall and just really proud of myself. And I don't know what that feeling was, but I started to realize I'd found my voice again. I'd really returned back to myself. And I really feel like myself when I was 16. I think that's a really beautiful thing, to return to yourself and to really honor yourself enough to kind of go and experiment with new things, different passions and interests, and really go through all of those different things and find your way back to who you were when you were 16, when you were a teenager. I really think grief kind of brought me to that ultimate low of like, you know, we all die one day. What do I want to be doing with my life? Do I want to be doing some bullshit that I'm not really passionate about? Or do I want to look back and realize that I was brave enough to make the pivot to do what I should be doing and what my passions are, what my skills are, and what I think is important to do in this world and this time we're in now? Grief really sucked that out of me, and I was just walking through those streets aimlessly and just hopeless about things, you know, ever getting better. And I started to feel like, no, I'm who I need to be, I'm where I need to be, and I started to really appreciate the London chapter. I realized that I would have never done this growth that I've done in these 9 months if I was still in New York. I would have been going through the same motions. I would have been so comfortable. I would have had resources and friends, and nothing would have really gotten me to where I am now. I think nothing would have really broken me. So I've started to really appreciate this London chapter for being quieter, slow financially, and have to think about other opportunities for myself. To have it be slow brand-wise and just say whatever the fuck I want on my social media. To not feel like I'm trapped in this box of being this Hoka athlete that everyone is following and I have to be a certain way. Everyone was watching me in New York and there are these Reddit forums and everyone's surveilling me and who's Kate's boyfriend and who's this. I was a mess, guys, and I think I can confidently say that I've really returned to myself. To relate this to grief a little bit, God, I don't want to fucking cry, but I'm going to. I would call my dad all the time, and we would talk about politics. That was like a through line of a lot of what we like to talk about. My dad was always a Democrat. I was his socialist daughter that had all these, you know, left hippie ideas, and he supported me and he challenged me and he encouraged me to have these beliefs. It's really sad that my dad doesn't get to see this chapter and who I am now. He doesn't get to see the work that I'm gonna do in the future. Dad was so proud of me for being so political and really caring about educating myself and listening and learning and bettering myself ever since I was a teenager, making my parents drive me to these indigenous protests in Minnesota or going to these events with pro-choice groups in Minnesota. I think my dad would be really proud of who I am now. I remember after my dad passed away, really feeling pissed at the whole healthcare system, really feeling a lot of grievance towards the system that I felt like failed my father. And I remember telling my dad on his deathbed, like, you know, Dad, I'm gonna do something about the system that failed you. I want to fight, you know, I want to do something to make it so other families don't have to go through this. And so that our healthcare system doesn't prioritize profit. And there's preventative care. And there's all of these things encouraged in our system. People like my dad don't die from a cancer diagnosis in 20 days. Grief is a teacher, as they say. And I think my grief really taught me check in every now and then and really realize that life is short. What do I want to be doing with my life? Do I want to be on my deathbed one day and say, damn, I wish I didn't do this and I wish I actually got to doing the thing that I was passionate about? My father's death just put me so much closer to that kind of prompt. I've had these lows in London, I had that revelation in New York, really connected me to my purpose. Now that I'm kind of on the other side of a lot of the lows of being in London, I think I've really been able to appreciate this chapter as a teacher. Exposed my grief in certain ways, obviously, being away from family, feeling isolated, feeling alone, feeling uncertain, feeling like I wish I could tell my dad about what's going on, and dad never got to meet Henry. So the move has certainly brought up my grief in a lot of ways, but I think I've started to accept challenges and grief and the struggles in life. They teach you so much. They're gonna be hard and you're gonna fucking hate them and you're gonna resist learning those lessons. As soon as you're really able to accept cards you're dealt, I think you're able to make peace with it and you're able to build a new life around it and also find yourself in the process versus just suppressing it, not going through your grief and kind of just shying away from it. Obviously, there will be many more lessons that I learn as long as I'm in London. I hope you guys like this. I'm gonna be doing some weekly vlogs on YouTube as well, so stay tuned for that. I think I'm gonna do them bi-weekly. Maybe I try to do weekly. I don't know what the appetite is, so let me know in the comments, but thank you so much for watching, and I'm super excited to be back on YouTube with you guys.